Hello everybody, Trevor here, and welcome to another Top 5 video. While we're still celebrating the 20th anniversary of Kingdom Hearts, I thought I'd do another Top 5 video, and this time, we'll be talking about the hardest bosses I've ever fought in my entire life. For this list, I'm mostly going to include secret bosses, which are optional bosses but tougher. Oh, and I'll try to include at least one story boss, which I'll get to in a little bit. While there are many secret bosses that were very hard for me to defeat, but these are the top 5 I've been having trouble with the most because they're very hard. But still, I persevered. Now without wasting any more time, let's talk about these bad boys, shall we? Number 5 is Dark Riku, particularly in Kingdom Hearts 1. When I was younger, I had so much trouble fighting this guy. He's basically Riku but possessed by Ansem's secret darkness, and wields the key to people's hearts. He's also the only story boss I'll be putting on this list. One of the most annoying things about this boss fight was his Dark Aura attack, which is very hard to dodge. It just frustrates me. But what's even more frustrating is that when you lose, not only do you have to start over, but in the original PS2 copy, you can't even skip the cutscene that leads to it! Thankfully, they fixed that problem in the final mix in HD versions, so that's why Dark Riku deserves the number 5 spot. Number 4 is Sephiroth. If you thought Dark Riku was hard enough, then you haven't seen Sephiroth's boss fight yet, whether it be in the first game, Kingdom Hearts 2, or in Union Cross. In the first game, Sephiroth slowly comes to you and slashes you very quickly. He can also deplete your health points to 0 once he uses his Heartless Angel move. So, you need to keep guarding and pack as many potions and elixirs as you can. Oh, and not to mention that you need to learn as many limit attacks as you can, such as Ars Arcanum. In Kingdom Hearts 2, he starts off with a flash attack, so you better be able to use the block reaction command as quickly as you can. You also must increase your defense as high as possible. And when he uses that Heartless Angel attack, he rises up in the air, so you better make sure you use that Trinity attack quickly before he depletes all your health. His fight in Union Cross, however, is a little bit simpler, particularly at a lower level of 1500, which I managed to beat by the way. However, I couldn't defeat him at a higher level, but that's okay. All I care about was defeating him only once in that game. Because Sephiroth only appeared in Kingdom Hearts 1, 2, and Union Cross, and that he's pretty much the only Final Fantasy villain to appear in this series, he deserves the number 4 spot. Oh, and there are also other secret bosses that are actually harder than him. Hopefully someday Sephiroth will come back in Kingdom Hearts 4 or so as an optional boss again. Number 3. The Unknown in Birth by Sleep, aka Young Xehanort. In the Kingdom Hearts series, there are different kinds of unknowns. Most of them are people in black coats. While Xemnas was considered very hard in Kingdom Hearts 1 Final Mix, but there was another unknown that's even harder, and I'm talking about Young Xehanort in Birth by Sleep. Yes, this is young Xehanort who time traveled to find and gather his other past selves for the upcoming Keyblade War. But instead of using his Keyblade in this battle, he uses 2 ethereal blades. This guy is real quick. There are times where he can trap you with his collision magnet, use renewal barrier to regain his health, and can even travel back in time and kill you if you attack at the wrong time. It took me like forever to beat this guy. At least he's a lot easier in Dream Drop Distance and in Kingdom Hearts 3 as a story boss, but he's also hard in the data rematches in Remind. Number 2, the Lingering Will. In case you're wondering, the Lingering Will was actually Terra's mind inside his armor because his body was stolen by Master Xehanort at the end of Terra's story in Birth by Sleep. However, unlike Sephiroth or any of the unknowns in the Kingdom Hearts series, the Lingering Will is really a good guy. I also thought some of his attacks were very impressive. For example, he can transform his Keyblade into various shapes including a bike and a whip. He can even attack by using his Ultima Cannon Shotlock, which also appeared in Birth by Sleep. While he is extremely hard, but once you strategize yourself by watching a few gameplay videos or going to the KingdomHeartsWiki.net on how to beat him, then you'll get the hang of it. Now, before I get to my number 1 pick, I just want to give a bunch of honorable mentions. Julius. While he can be hard, he's not as hard as, say, Sephiroth, the Lingering Will, or any of the unknown secret bosses. any of the secret Heartless boss fights, whether it be the Phantom, Kurtzisa, or Dark Inferno. They're really not as hard as the other candidates on this list, and so far, the only hardest ones are the 3 I've already mentioned just now. But with a little practice and necessary equipment, then you'll beat these guys in no time. The Vanitas Remnant. I honestly forgot about this guy while making this video, but I'll put him in the honorable mentions anyway because he's not as hard as young Zin or in terms of the amount of health points that he has. Sure, he's still hard, but I still consider the Unknown and Birth by Sleep even harder than this guy. Ericus's Armor and No Heart. As hard as they are, they would have been number 2 because I only wanted to pick at least one armored boss for this video. All the data rematches in Kingdom Hearts 2 Final Mix and Kingdom Hearts 3 Remind. If I list them all here, then we'd be here all day. And the number 1 hardest Kingdom Hearts boss I've ever fought in my entire life is Yozora. Out of all the secret bosses I've ever fought in my entire life, Yozora has to be the hardest of them all for many reasons. For one thing, he has the power to steal your weapon temporarily, and without it, you'll have to keep dodging and dodging until he gives it back to you. Secondly, he can also steal your items including Mega Elixirs, so be sure to keep using that glide move to avoid that red light of his. And trust me, I was able to defeat this guy with only a few elixirs in my frickin' pocket. But the worst part of it is, there are 2 different endings, one good, the other bad. And to be quite frank, I've gotten the bad ending first, which shows Sora being crystallized like in the Fabula Nova Crystallis Final Fantasy series. But in the good ending, which I've gotten hours later by the way, shows Yozora fading away into light. And yes, it took me hours to defeat Yozora. But you know what? I persevered no matter how many times I've died. And because of these reasons, I've put Yozora as the number 1 hardest boss I've ever fought in my entire life. Sorry if I'm sounding like a broken record. Now let me know in the comments section on which do you think was the hardest boss. Do you agree with my list, or do you have your own personal preference? Oh, and I promise that my next video will be about Thomas the Tank Engine because that's my main channel topic. This is Trevor Davis saying, may your hearts be your guiding key.